with you some ideas that you can use to decorate the elements of your papers, whether it's digitals, vintage papers, or just plain scrapbook paper. I came across this photograph at an antique shop, and what really intrigued me about her is she reminded me of Elsa Fitzgerald. Looking at her dress and the way that she has her hair, the way that the picture's taken, it reminded me of the flapper girls in that era. During this same trip, I picked up other antique pieces, and I imagined essentially a sweet little story and collection inspired by this lovely lady. I've separated my papers into two piles, and this is the first thing that I always do when I'm creating journals. I have my pattern papers that are going to become like my base pages, and then my cut apart sheets. And of course, my digital kit is the main focus to this journal. So I have to go and fuzzy cut all of these pieces. And once I have them cut, I then separate the cut apart pieces from the pattern pages. The colors of this kit are colors that I wanted to incorporate together for a while. This Victorian die cut. Here you can fuzzy cut the rows, and then here it's included as an actual journal page. To create the covers, I am using a little cereal box that I'm recycling, layering them up together to make a sturdy cover. I highly recommend using cardstock, cardboard, packaging supplies to create your covers, as well as antique or vintage books that are falling apart, because it's a way of recycling, helping the planet, and then also you have a world of possibilities with how you can decorate these. And I just find I'm more creative when I use items that I can recycle. I wrapped my cardboard covers with some vintage paper, just so I have a bare and blank canvas to now decorate and work on. This is going to be the front cover, and then this is going to be the back cover. This little pile is of all my paper scraps. There's lots of strips and smaller, thinner pieces in this kit. This is my focal point pile. Her photograph, the Victorian die cut, and then a little flower die cut. Those are my three focal points for creating my journal. And then I have a background paper pile. There's butterflies on every corner. The gorgeous postcard, I wanted to give you different versions of it since I loved it so much. So this is where I go to if I want to grab something that I can then layer on top of. And typically, like, my medium-sized papers are in this pile, and my largest pile is my scrapbook papers. So that's how I tend to keep myself organized when I'm creating my journal covers and my journal pages. It's so magical seeing the authentic piece of ephemera that's aged, that's fragile. Look at how tiny it started out. I was able to turn it into a big paper sheet. This is what the front cover is looking like. I've added little marks with marker as well to make the die cut seem more three-dimensional and more realistic. I just took a pink marker and I darkened some areas of the flower. On this page, this is still part of the front cover, and I want that little script to be showing on the bottom. Added a ruffle out of some vintage fabric, and I am starting to work on the back cover. I always love seeing how all of the papers look when they're layered on top of each other, just to give me an idea as to how the papers will look like once they're inside of the journal. I also did a little bit of texture paste. The texture is so beautiful, it looks very crackled like, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to make this the first page of the journal. So these are the pages that I worked on last night, as I had no more light and I wasn't able to film my progress, but I want to share with you some ideas that you can use to decorate the elements of your papers, whether it's digitals, vintage papers, or just plain scrapbook paper. So I'm planning on having 2 signatures in this journal. That's what I always say. It can sometimes be more. And I take my papers, trim them to size, and I fold them. And I always make sure that they're about the same size, and I make sure that they have the same amount of pages. And as you can see, I followed the same layout for both. The first page is a half page, so just a piece of paper that I have cut and folded in half. These are typically the pages where I create pockets and add some sweet ephemera to. The second page is typically always a pocket page, and then the third page is just a plain piece of scrapbook paper that I can then add an envelope in the center or decorate on top of. So those are my base pages that I will add fabric and ephemera to. This is just some antique book paper that was ripping in the center, and I just reinforced it. So here I used the wallpaper strip from the kit, and I just glued it on one side, and I added some beautiful washi tape on the inside. Also, if you have book pages, as I know that's something that we all love to use as background paper, all I did is I took some real wallpaper and I glued it right in the center. And as you can see, without that reinforcement of the paper, these pages would have easily broken and come apart when we start the binding process. So it's very important, if you're using antique papers, to reinforce them in the center with either washi tape, paper, or even fabric. Another idea is you can take a longer piece of paper. This is from the cut apart sheet. I just fold the bottom over to create a pocket. Since I'm creating this journal in the Artist in Bloom style, in that course I teach you how to use texture paste, the type of paste that I use and how I apply it, and even where I get my stencils. This stencil is one that I've had for years and it's still working beautifully, as it's a stencil that has adhesive to it, so it sticks really nicely to your surface and gives you a perfect image. And I just backed it with a vintage receipt. And then for the antique parts of the journal that I want to incorporate, of course, this embossed paper. I embossed this from an old flower book, like the cover, the little paperback cover for the book. I loved the back side of it, the patina. So this is something that I really want to incorporate, but very gently, as it tears very easily. A little bit of tatted lace, and of course other laces will be included in the journal. And I also have leftover tissue paper from packages that I've ordered, and instead of throwing it away, I love using it in my journals. And I wanted to ruffle it up as you would fabric and stitch it, and it looks like a little skirt. I really like it, so I definitely want to incorporate this into the cover. And then of course some of my antique envelopes, since we're going to be having envelopes inside of the journal. So many fragile little pieces that I need to take care of and make sure that this embossed paper doesn't keep breaking, because it's absolutely beautiful, but it is very, very fragile to work with. I even have this little pink bow, which the theme of this journal is her pink bow. This was included in the Rosabella journal. It just makes me so happy to see all of these beautiful pieces layered together. Oh, I'm so excited to see what this looks like when it's finished. Essentially, I want to create the effect of like a Victorian album. So then I found this beautiful fabric, and this is like a velvet textured fabric. And then with the die cut on top, we'll give it that raised effect that I want. We'll add a little bit more texture. I cut out a piece of this velvet fabric. I can simply trim it to size, stitch it down, and that will give me that raised textural difference to my paper. Because sometimes when you're just layering pieces of paper on top of each other, you're not adding any new textures unless you add texture paste, embossing. And I thought about adding embossed paper, but since that's something that I do on a regular basis, I wanted to add something different to the cover. So as I was decorating this signature for the journal, look at how beautiful, and the tulle, you guys, the tulle. And then this is going to be a darling little flip out. There's some of my wallpaper sheets. They printed beautifully. This is the piano page, and I turned it into a pocket, and I need to fill up this empty space. And this is the reason why I didn't print out my digitals double-sided, because I want to be able to decorate the sides however I would like to. Like on this page here, I used a French like manuscript paper and then some writing paper, and that way you have variety in pages in your journal. So in the center, I wanted to create like a collaged spread as the background page. Since the theme is her pink bow, it's so pretty, the lace that she's wearing, and then her little pink bow straps. I want a shirt like that. I think that's adorable. And just to share with you the difference in printing, as I know I get a lot of questions on the papers that I use, this is printed on a Strathmore linen paper. And then this is printed on Epsom premium paper. The premium paper prints everything as if it's a painting, really. It's so smooth, the colors are so vivid, and every detail is very crisp. As the linen paper, you can see the difference. It's a little bit more subdued. In my Facebook group, I give all the details to the printer that I have, the papers that I use, and the reason as to why I ripped that collage sheet in half is because I want to use one of the collage sheets as a background. I think the one that I really want to do is this one. This is a perfect background page. Slowly but surely, this journal is coming together. I might make some ephemera packs because I have a lot of leftover paper that I printed. It's been a while since I created some ephemera, physical ephemera that I can offer in the shop. So I might do that. Let me know in the comments below if you would like some bundles. In my Facebook group, I asked what kind of imagery you guys would love to see, and a lot of people wanted to have some vintage ladies. So this is a sweet little girl, her little pink bows. These are so cute. These little envelopes look like little pastries to me. They're small enough to fit into any little nook and cranny that you want to put into a journal, but they're not too big. They're perfect. I want to distress them so that they look a lot older. I love how the papers intercept together when you fold them. All the ripped edges. It truly looks like an old envelope. The main rows of this collection in the most beautiful pink, and then these really beautiful tags. See, doesn't this just look like a little plate of pastries? We're slowly working on this beautiful little journal. It's been such a therapeutic process. I started realizing that perhaps adding the floral die cut on the front wouldn't be the best idea, and I do not want it to take away from the velvety cover. I want more of a three-dimensional embellishment on the cover. And I have these beautiful metal pieces, this remnant piece. I'm not sure if it was from, I know it was from an article of clothing, I just don't know what part. This type of material has a lot of texture because of the pleats throughout. So I want to use this. It's kind of like a background. And I also looked through my laces. I have so many embellished, like beaded laces that I collect because I have an obsession, and that's beautiful fabrics. Look at that layering. It's just so elegant, and this is what I want to see on the cover, and it's going to make me want to open the journal and actually use it. So this is my plan. We're still going to use this image, but just inside of the journal or on the envelopes. But I definitely want a three-dimensional embellishment to be the centerpiece. I can't wait to show you all of the pieces. On the top, I used some lace that's see-through so that you could still see the words. This page I'm excited to sew and put together. Oh, just the textures and the layers of the journal, the fabric. This is something that I love too. Just taking a piece of fabric and leaving the little pieces on the top and bottom. And then the center page, it's just gorgeous. I can't wait to share with you all of these lovely pages that I've been making for this journal. So I think this journal is going to turn out to be very lovely, I hope at least. I think third time's the charm because this is the third time I have changed the cover of my journal. I originally was going to do the rose die cut, but want to use that inside. I then wanted to create this lovely little butterfly as a three-dimensional embellishment. Just look at how beautiful the butterfly, like the textile butterfly, looks on top of the paper. So I thought using a piece of that applique lace kind of asymmetrically, and this is the reality when you're creating a journal cover, you move and position things so many times. I don't want to lose the velvet, and as much as I love this little butterfly that I made, I think it would be better as a paper clip. Oh my gosh, this is stunning. I want to use this, but I don't know if the colors are a little bit too like drastic for the color palette. This I know for a fact is going to be turned into little tabs to mark my favorite pages in the journal. Found a little pearl earring, and then I'm using the envelopes and papers from Lily's Lullaby and her pink bow. I also have this beautiful little bird. It's so pretty. This is another little piece. I love this little ribbon too. So all I have to do now is assemble the pages, bind them together, create the spine, and the journal will finally be finished, and I can start sharing with you all of the pieces inside of the journal and what I'm going to actually use this journal for.